Alright, so welcome to the Flying Cup analysis for Shadow Aerodactyl. Now, obviously, you do have some cool, like, red eyes or black aura on the, like, Go Hub analysis, but you know what? It's pretty good. It has a lot of information. Let's go with it. So, Aerodactyl is the flying, menacing rock. I don't know how you throw rocks. I'm guessing you pick it up with your legs and then you throw it at their face because rock throw is very interesting for Aerodactyl, and that's what makes it really good for the Flying Cup. Aerodactyl is basically the tap-tap of the Flying Cup. It throws rocks at your opponent, and with shadow damage, it's even stronger. And there's a specific reason why. With shadow damage, you minus 20% defense, and you add 20% to attack. This doesn't really benefit... This benefits a lot of mons, just depending on their stat product, and Aerodactyl is one of them. The reason being is because, as you see, its lowest stat is defense. Popping 20% defense off isn't going to affect Aerodactyl too much. However, it does have insanely high attack. So if we do the math, Aerodactyl's attack rises much higher than its defense is lowered because of just the way the stats are. So, I'm not going to do math over here, but basically, high attack glass cannon mons like Aerodactyl really benefit from having a shadow version. That really depends though. You're using it for, depends on what the meta is and depends on the purpose, and because you get to throw shadow rocks, you're going to rock your opponent's world. So, Shadow Aerodactyl will still have a bunch of, like, the same weaknesses as regular Aerodactyl. You are weak to electric, ice, rock, steel, water. That's a lot. It's gonna be a lot, but every flying type is going to be weak against air. Like, these are basically going to be the same things. The only difference is that because it's a rock type, it will be to water and steel. So, just keep that in mind. Obviously, most of the resistance here do not apply because this is the Flying Cup. However, as you noticed, Aerodactyl does resist flying types just because of its rock typing. So that's the only plus. But it does carry additional weaknesses. But you're not going to see a lot of steel and water typing. So unless it's like Waterfall Gyarados. Or you're going to see Flash Cannon Skarm. But you shouldn't use don't use Flash Cannon. Use Brave Bird. Brave Bird. Just burp. Just burp. Like Steel Wing. You're going to use Steel Wing. So you're going to use Steel Wing Skarmory for the Flying Cup. Just burp. Just use the burp. Aerodactyl, you should have attained. It's very hard. The thing about Shadow Aerodactyl, it's very hard to obtain and it's expensive. 75k dust to power up. As you see, you get to level 20 or level 19 because of its high attack stat. However, the thing about Shadow Pokemon is that those Shadow Boost does not affect doesn't affect CMP. And it doesn't affect its, like, CP. So, for example, its CP is still going to... Shadow Aerodactyl is still going to stay the same CP-wise. So, it's still going to be at level 19 or level 18, 19, 20, whichever one power up to. But Shadows aren't cheap, and its second move isn't cheap. So, you're going to spend a lot of bread, and at the same time, you don't exactly find Shadow Aerodactyls on rocket stops like candy. You know, you gotta go out there, you gotta look, and you gotta pray that you get one. Now, the reason I'm doing Shadow Aerodactyl is because, as you see here, here's the rankings for Flying Cup, and you notice it's not too much of a huge difference. However, it does take 3 whole slots above its regular cousin for Aerodactyl. Shadow Aerodactyl does rank at number 3. It's an incredibly powerful lead, and it's even stronger than its actual cousin. Like, yeah, it's stronger than Aerodactyl, obviously because of the shadow damage. It has stronger matchups against several things, so that's what makes it really, really interesting. Now, we'll see more in the Matrix, so I'm not going to do like a side-by-side of regular Aerodactyl, Shadow Aerodactyl. You're going to see in the Matrix just like how powerful it is and what it flips. But Shadow Aerodactyl definitely is a very powerful lead, just because Rock Throw is so strong. As you see here, Rock Throw, Rock Slide, Iron Head does so much damage. It overtakes it in the lead. The rating isn't too high, so you can lead with Shadow Aerodactyl or regular Aerodactyl. The key here is to find out whether Shadow Aerodactyl is, well, it's better than regular Aerodactyl, like, overall, because it does that little bit of chip damage. But is there something that Shadow Aerodactyl flips that regular Aerodactyl doesn't? As you see here, ranks number 7 as a closer, and as a switch, ranks at number 6. So it's actually weaker than the Switch, but just because you have that extra fight, that extra damage from the shadow damage, it's very powerful in Go Battle League Flying Cup. And it's actually one of the best, it's the second best attacker in the game. Extremely powerful. The best weapon I shield opponents while unshielded. As you see here, it just literally just, you just throw rocks at everything, and it just kills everything. Well, yeah, you throw rocks at everything and you kill everything. It's basically what it is. But we're going to take a look at Matrix just to see how Aerodactyl Shadow compares to regular Aerodactyl. Because there's not too much of a difference. It's better, definitely better just because of the shadow damage, like I said. We're going to find out. Alright, so where is the Matrix? As you see, I put Shadow Aerodactyl. I put the Ancient Power variation. I also put the Rockslide version. And I also put the Rockslide Ironhead, the regular version, just so you could compare the Shadow to the regular Aerodactyl and see if it flips anything. Now we have the 2 shield here in the lead. As you see, it does. You have a stronger matchup versus Altaria and also Articuno. Well, you're just going to throw rocks at Articuno anyway, so it's just, yeah. Articuno dies. It's double weak to rock, so guess what happens when rock meets ice flying? You die. It's that simple. You have a stronger matchup against Aerodactyl. You do have a weaker matchup against Shadow Articuno, but this doesn't matter too much because you still beat it. You beat Emolga. You beat Emolga. You still beat Emolga. A weaker matchup with the Shadow version, but you still beat it. Now, here's what's interesting. Shadow Aerodactyl actually beats Gyarados and Gligar up 2 shields. That's nuts. That's huge. That's actually huge. Like, flipping Gyarados with Waterfall and Gligar. Because you can see Gligars and Gyarados in Flying Cup. You can see them. But Shadow Aerodactyl actually beats both of them. You also beat Mantine. You beat Skarmory in the 2 shield. You lose against Skarmory. Well, Skarmory with Steel Wing. So you're gonna see you're not gonna see a lot of Air Slash Skarmory, I promise you. You're probably gonna see the Steel Wing variant because Steel Wing beats Aerodactyl. And as you see, you lose against the Steel Wing variation, so you might want to switch. You do beat Togekiss and Zapdos, but you beat the entire meta except Aerodactyl. Well, you beat the entire meta in the 2 shield except regular Aerodactyl and Skarmory. That's nuts. That's freaking that's huge. That's huge. No, seriously, that's huge. The fact that you beat Aerodactyl and you're like, well, that's not even it's a simultaneous knockout. So it's a simultaneous knockout with regular Aerodactyl and Skarmory with Steel Wing. That's freaking nuts. That's the 2 shield. There's no real introduction. Shadow Aerodactyl's good in the lead. Should probably use it. Does flip matchups. In the 1 shield, things do change. As you see here, you do lose against Gligar now. You also lose against you lose against Mantine now too. So in the 1 shield, things do flip, but you do pick up only 2 matches. You still beat Altaria, Articuno, Emolga, and Zapdos. Those are really important. But yes, you still do beat them. Now, that's the 1 shield. You notice I'm flying through this really quickly because there's no real, like, I'm only picking up, like, what you're weak against. Aerodactyl obviously is still very powerful, but I'll reveal in the summary, like, the notable notes, as usual. What's important and what's not. Rather than me babble around, I want to give you relevant information really quickly. As you see here, regular Aerodactyl in the zeros will take out Altaria. Now you beat Articuno. You beat Articuno still. This is where you'll lose against Emolga and regular Zapdos, just because you do get Thunderbolt does end your life. You beat Gligar and Gyarados in the zeros, however, and just in the zero, the closer's just not very strong. Try to keep it away. You'll lose against Mantine too. So you lose against Mantine, Zapdos, Emolga, Altaria. You still beat a good chunk of the meta, but a lot of like popular picks. You even beat Skarmory in the zeros with the Rock Slide variation. So you want the Rock Slide Rock Slide does flip important matchups. I put Ancient Power here because Ancient Power, if you get the boost, it's interesting. But as you see here, you do beat Steel Wing Skarmory in the zeros. That's another notable matchup. 2 notable matchups. You beat Gligar, you beat Gyarados in the 2s, and then Skarmory in the zeros, you take out the Steel Wing variation, which is pretty nuts. Well, this is if you have Rock Slide. So Rock Slide does matter for the Shadow version. So Shadow Aerodactyl does flip a lot of metal, as you see here, very powerful. Now what happens when you give What happens when you give the Shadow Aerodactyl shields? Guess what? You destroy the entire meta except regular Aerodactyl because you're simultaneously. That's huge! As you see here, regular Aerodactyl does not flip the matchup with Gyarados, nor does it flip the Steel Wing matchup. Up a shield, you can still win with regular Aerodactyl, but as you see here, you flip that matchup. It's nuts. So that's up a shield. Now, what happens when you sack your first 2 mons and then you put Aerodactyl, Shadow Aerodactyl back with 2 shields? You still lose against lose against regular Aerodactyl because you just tap each other down. However, as you see here, 2 zeros, you beat the entire meta. So give Aerodactyl a shield, and it will beat a lot of the meta. And that's what makes Aerodactyl so powerful. However, Shower Aerodactyl, there's some minor differences, but you could definitely notice like what they flip. Now the 2-to-1 things kind of change a bit. If you have shield advantage, you will lose against Steel Wing Skarmory, but you know what? Only losing against 2 of the meta with Shadow Skarm. As you see here, regular Aerodactyl does lose against Gyarados, but Shadow Aerodactyl does pick up that matchup. So Shadow Aerodactyl is freaking strong. You only it's able to it does the shadow damage matters, as you see. So that's the 2-to-1s, and that's just it. In the technical summary, Shadow Aerodactyl is very strong. As you see, it has the power to flip the matchup with Gyarados and Gligar. 2 things you can see in the Flying Cup. And it also flips some Skarmory matchups as well. Steel Wing Skarmory matchups, which is very relevant because Steel Wing Skarmory is going to be around because Steel Wing Skarmory beats Aerodactyl. So Aerodactyl Shadow version is very powerful. It's very good. It's very good. As you see, it beats a lot of the meta. I rate it an 8 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10 because, like, it still loses hard in the closer against a lot of things. But other than that, in all the other positions, it's very powerful. And the Shadow does flip matchups. As you see here in the Matrix, Shadow Aerodactyl flips. Also, the reason why I rate it so low as well is because Shadow Aerodactyl is hard to find. You can't exactly walk outside during an event and find a Shadow Aerodactyl right in the smack down the middle of nowhere and be like, hey, what's that? Is that a Shadow Aerodactyl? Stop, hi! And even if you do the rock stop, you still can encounter Almastar, Lord Helix, etc. So it's not even guaranteed. As you see here, in the 2 shield, you win 94% of matchup in the 2s. That's nuts. That's Shadow Aerodactyl. Now what happens when you use regular Aerodactyl? As you see here, there's Shadow Aerodactyl. You beat him, but you only lose against 2 matchups. You lose or draw against 2 matchups, which the draws are probably your own Aerodactyl. Regular Aerodactyl does lose 2 matchups. So as you see, there is the lose. And like we already reviewed those losses, you lose the Gligar and the Gyarados matchup. However, being able to beat a Waterfall Gyarados with a Shadow Aerodactyl is nuts. So that rating is disgustingly good. That's also the reason why it's so powerful. It beats 90% of the meta. In the 1 shield, that's regular Aerodactyl at 85%. Shadow Aerodactyl, as we see, does pick a matchup 89%. There's a visible improvement in regular Aerodactyl versus Shadow Aerodactyl, and that's why it's so powerful. Now, if you do have one, get the highest IV you can, highest ranking you can, but definitely Shadow Aerodactyls will scare you. As you see, there's a visible improvement in every multi-battle scenario. Shadow Aerodactyl wrecks souls. Now, like I said, the reason why I rated it so low, rated it not as a 9, I usually only rate 9s for things that are 1, easy to obtain, and 2, absolutely destroy the meta. Regular Aerodactyl is still very good, however, it's not as oppressive as Shadow Aerodactyl. Shadow Aerodactyl picks up 94% of the matchups in the 2s, which makes Shadow Aerodactyl one of the best leads. Well, it's factually the best lead, we just went over it. But yeah, that's Shadow Aerodactyl is good. If you do have a high and good one, definitely use it. It's very powerful. Like I said, try to avoid it closer, give it shields, but then Shadow Aerodactyl will serve you well if you have it. You guys have a great day. I hope you guys... I'm going to be releasing my flying guide tomorrow for, my early Flying Cup Part 2 tomorrow. So you can just see exactly, where... But yeah, this is, Shadow Aerodactyl and Shadow Skarmory are the 2 most relevant ones, and I'll go over them. Here's the first one. Now, I will see you guys on the next video, and we're going to go over Shadow Skarmory.